Today we've got the maiden flight on the Freewing F-16 90mm V2. This is a 6S version. Talk about a few things about this plane and then we'll try to get this maiden completed. First thing is the scale on this bird. It's basically a little bit more detailed even than the super scale that they made a long time ago. That does add some extra weight. This one's supposed to be around a pound heavier than the previous model. However, some of the upgrades include it's got the plastic on the leading edge, so when you're putting it in the stand, it shouldn't rub that. It's got the light up display inside, and that's got the little pins in there, so when you take the canopy on and off, it has contacts to light it up when you put the canopy on there. Setup, we got the 19mm from the top of the fuselage like recommended in the book. We're using 130mm back from the leading edge. That's the rear part of the CG that's in the book. They call it from, I think it's 115 to 128. I will say this, talking about the lights, this is probably some of the brightest lights I've seen on a model so far. The extra bits on this thing, it's got the vents on the back, so when you run the throttle up, these intakes actually fold in, and then it's got the scale landing gear. Let's take a look at the equipment we got today. The TX16S with AGO1s, and we're running a 6S 5900 high voltage SMC pack. That's one of the new purple V2s. We've got the 10360T with the satellite up front. We got one antenna this way, one this way, and then the satellite up front. Here's the little contact pins that I mentioned. You want to be careful putting your cable in here because it's just two little wires, so you don't want those to connect together. We do have the Freewing afterburner in here. Not sure how good it'll show up on today's date, but for the price, you know, if you're flying them in low light, they're really good. And, you know, 18 bucks, it's a pretty good deal. You can buy it with the bird at the same time. This one doesn't have any ribbon cables. The blue box has all the cables plugged into it from the factory. So what I did was I actually separated everything. All the control surfaces are differently. So when we take it up, most F-16s I've landed clean. We might try to pull the flaperons down and use tailerons for the pitch and the roll. So to show you what that looks like, this is clean flying here. Then when you go half flaps with the flaperons, so both the ailerons will go down. Now the pitch and the roll is in the tail, and then flaps all the way down. You still got pitch and roll as well. So we'll see how that feels in the air. Might have to adjust a little bit on the trim. If we get low on time and it doesn't feel right, we'll just bring it in and land it clean. So we're going to put that back up. Like I say, I really like the look of this bird. The paint scheme is definitely different with the Aggressor. You know, we got a clear day today, so hopefully it'll be a little bit easier to see. But last thing is, we did the coating on this one. We actually tried something a little bit different. We used a polyacrylic Minwax, but we used one called Ultra Flat. And what it kind of did is just made the paint look a little bit more wet, like it's been painted on, but not with a super gloss. Like it basically just made it look more uniform because the flat doesn't really add that much shine. You know, so I definitely like how that came out. But we've done enough talking about this F-16. Let's get this bird in the air and try to get this maiden flight completed. Definitely gonna need some up. We'll need some left. When it took off, our boy, it shot off the ground. This thing's got plenty of elevator authority. So now we're gonna back out of the power. See what we got. Flying good. You can definitely tell it's heavier than some of the other 90s. Feels pretty good. Elevator's still definitely a little touchy.
Stabilization on.
We're gonna put the gyro in, see what we got. Definitely makes it a little bit more stable. Now it feels a lot better. On that elevator though, we're definitely gonna have to be careful. Definitely gonna have to be careful on the elevator. So that thing jumped straight off the ground, but it did need some up, so I had to put a little bit more into it, and it kind of just jumped off the ground. But once we got it lined out, now we got the gyro on low, it feels good. Didn't like going to high rate, so we're just gonna leave it on low rate. We're gonna put the gear down now. See how it feels. Low rate, definitely plenty of elevator. We're gonna make it pass by the runway. Be conscious of our power. Definitely nose heavy with that trim.
Aileron medium.
Definitely gonna have to go aileron medium. And I'm not gonna try the ailerons this time. I'm just gonna bring it in clean. Bring it around the corner. Keep the nose down. Go around. Definitely pitching up. It's definitely on the tail heavy side. So it's pretty clean. Definitely flying clean. I'm trying to bring it in and manage the power. And also be easy on the elevator. All right, now we got it dropping in good. Put it down, and man, that took some finessing. So we keep it on the runway. Kept it on the runway without tipping over. Hot landing, I'll take it. Let's bring it back to the bench. Boy, it took some maneuvering right there. A little squirrely on the takeoff. So that battery is definitely going to have to go forward and tame it down a little bit. However, it worked out. Didn't get to use the ailerons, but brought it in, stopped it. Let's go over to the bench, look at the post-flight review. We've got the maiden flight completed on the Freewing 90mm F-16 V2. I gotta say, that one got my heart racing a little bit. We took it up on the lift, on the climb out. I noticed it was really sensitive to the elevator, but also it was pitching down. So I had to get it back around, get it trimmed out, and actually gave it some down trim. So that raised it up a few millimeters higher than what the book calls for. So probably around 17 millimeters. Flew it around, pulled the gear up, it evened some of it out. Clicked the gyro on, definitely helped. When I was flying it around, I noticed it was kind of squirrely a little bit. I put the low AS3X on first. Then I was like, well, let me try to stabilize a little bit more. Went to high, started oscillating. Didn't even want to go into messing with the knob and all that. These bigger, heavier birds, you got shorter flight time. Kicked it back down to low. It felt pretty locked in, and that's half of what the stock 40, 50, and 60 rates are. Brought it around. I knew I was going to have to bring it in because I had definitely been on the throttle quite a bit for that flight, and I was getting on up in the timer. I was going to try the flaperons with the ailerons, but that was just another variable we were going to have to mess with. So I brought it in a first approach, just want to get a feel for it, especially with the controls being a little sensitive on the elevator. Brought it around again, slowed it down, got the nose up, let it drop in. These F-16s, especially this one being fairly high wing loading, when you start pulling that nose up, it's really going to start dropping. And you'll notice when I brought it in, it's kind of flat for just a second. And I pulled the nose up and it started coming down the runway, and I added the power back to soften the touchdown. 330-foot runway. As soon as we touched down and rode just a hair, put the coals to it on the reverse thrust. We got it stopped by the end of the runway and kept it from tipping over. One thing about this one versus some of the other Freewing jets, it does have a plastic rail on it. So the normal Freewing rails are foam, which break fairly easy. These will get scuffed up, but they shouldn't break. And the whole thing's plastic, where some of the other F-16s, like the E-Flight, it's half and half. Half foam on the top, half plastic on the bottom. Gear done its job, soaked it up. You want to protect that nose gear and keep it from getting hit. So we were on a 330 timer. We were 10 seconds left. So we were 320 on the throttle. So you can tell we were on the throttle quite a bit. 348 in the sky. So we stayed on the throttle above 25% pretty much the whole time. Talking about the flight time, let's see what we got on the battery results. Again, this is the SMC 5900 V2. We've got 386 right on the head. So we actually could have went around, but these bigger 90s, they definitely take some juice. And this bird being a little bit heavier, one thing about it is when you get it slowed down, it's going to take some juice to speed it back up. So overall, we definitely got some dialing in to do. One a little bit trickier F-16. I've never flown a 90 F-16 before. I've flown the 70s, the 80s, and the 105. So pretty much flown all the other ones. However, we'll get it locked in and get some more flights and get it dialed in for the flight review. If you're not following the channel, go ahead and subscribe to see that future flight review and any other ones that we do. Go ahead and push like on the video. Give us some support for this flight we had today. And we'll see you on the next one.